Thanks, Sophie. Hello there, good evening. Welcome to Look North, our top story tonight. We'll have more on the Chancellor's announcement of a multi-billion-pound boost for transport in the north and ask what it could mean for our region.
The Chancellor was very clear today that there will be more detail to come, but the fact that she chose to mention it in this speech and gave it such prominence led to me giving a whoop here when I was listening to it in Gipton.
And I'm live outside Rachel Reeves's front door to try and find out what MPs think about her spending review, but more importantly, what voters think as well.
In other news, a police investigation is launched after a suspicious substance is sent to a Leeds Hospital. And all the notes in the right order. Eric Morecambe's notebook gets a new home in York.
And there should be more warm sunshine to come tomorrow, but with an increasing risk of 1 or 2 thunderstorms. Join me for that detailed forecast.
Hello there, thanks for your company tonight. You may have already heard that the Chancellor and West Yorkshire MP Rachel Reeves has set out her spending plan for the next few years, and there are promises of funding for rail and bus services across our region. Tonight we're going to analyse what's been announced and how it will affect you. We'll also get thoughts from our political editor in Westminster and from our region's MPs as well. But first, let's start with transport, shall we? Because quite a lot was announced today or re-announced today. There's funding for Transpennine route upgrade between York, Leeds and Manchester. £3.5 billion will be invested over the next 4 years. There was also the commitment to boost Northern Powerhouse Rail, the major programme to improve rail connectivity in the north. Leeds Railway Station is to receive £240 million to improve capacity and relieve congestion. Bus services in North Yorkshire set to get better with promises of more funding there. And there was also a commitment to Doncaster Sheffield Airport. Our transport correspondent Spencer Stokes is at Huddersfield Railway Station for us tonight. £3.5 billion announced for the Transpennine route, Spencer. Does this look like a real commitment to the project?
Well, Transpennine route upgrade, Amy, is one of the biggest construction projects in the north of England, a scheme to completely update and transform the railway all the way from York through Leeds and on to Manchester. This is Huddersfield Railway Station here. The station building there is going to be closed in August for a rebuild, and you can see other parts of the project, a bridge deck that's going to be put in place over there later in the year. It's all costing in the region of £11 billion, and the £3.5 billion announced by the Chancellor today is the latest batch of that funding that will allow some electrification work west of here under the Pennines onwards towards Manchester to take place. Once that work has happened, there will be 8 trains an hour between Leeds and Manchester, 6 of them fast ones, doing the journey in around about 40 minutes. So with that announcement, the Chancellor showing her commitment and also her commitment to spending the money on this scheme here.
Talking of schemes, Northern Powerhouse Rail was also mentioned today, wasn't it? Where are we at with that project?
Yes, NPR, Northern Powerhouse Rail, those 3 words have been knocking around for well over a decade. First announced by George Osborne, a much bigger project than this. It's the idea of building a whole new railway line separate to this one across the north of England, possibly all the way from Liverpool to Hull. Various governments of different colours have backed it, and then when they've seen the cost, effectively backed away from it. Rachel Reeves has said today that she is in favour of it. She would like it to happen, and she'll reveal more details about what shape it could take, how it will be funded, what it will cost in the next few weeks. But one person who was really happy to hear that commitment today was Henry Murison from the business organisation, the Northern Powerhouse Partnership. He believes if that railway is built, you will boost businesses and you will boost the wealth of the north of England. This is what he said.
The Chancellor was very clear today that there will be more detail to come, but the fact that she chose to mention it in this speech and gave it such prominence led to me giving a whoop here when I was listening to it in Gipton, because it is a real opportunity, not just for people like me who've been campaigning for it for so long, but for people who live in communities like this. Because the reality is that higher productivity will raise the wages of people across cities like Leeds, across cities like Bradford, but also in the neighbouring towns. Because if you can attract more people to work in cities like these, then more employers will want to come here, and we'll be able to drive up wages through attracting those better paid jobs.
Spencer, some of our viewers might be thinking, hang on a minute, we've heard some of these announcements before, like the government backing Doncaster Sheffield Airport.
Yeah, just 2 months ago, Keir Starmer at DSA to say he's going to hand over £30 million to help speed up the process of reopening it. Rachel Reeves in Parliament today saying that they want to reopen it, sort of underlining that commitment really. I think what is significant is various regional airports over the last couple of decades have closed. Blackpool went, Plymouth went as well, and you didn't see the government throwing the weight behind opening those. So the Labour Metro Mayor Oliver Coppard, the Reform-run council in Doncaster and the Labour Mayor of Doncaster, I think will probably welcome that reaffirmment, that commitment to getting DSA reopened. The date they keep talking about is summer 2026. That could be just 12 months away.
Spencer, thank you. Our region was mentioned quite a lot in some of those announcements today. So from our region to Westminster and the flurry of announcements, our political editor James Vincent is outside number 11 Downing Street. James, is this a good day for Yorkshire?
It's a good day for Yorkshire in terms of the number of announcements there have been. I think that one of the interesting conversations I had with one of my colleagues down south was, the North's getting quite a lot of stuff. That's not necessarily been the case in the last few years. We'd heard some of it before, so we'd heard some of it in the last 10 days or so. They'd announced quite a lot of it. There was stuff like Spencer had been talking about the rail line money, that had already been announced, so we knew that was coming. But there was some new stuff as well. One of the things I picked out was the plan to make sure that they could house asylum seekers away from hotels by the end of this Parliament. They think that will save the taxpayer £1 billion. Obviously there is the question of where they then put asylum seekers while they're waiting for their applications to be processed. That's a question for the government to come. But there's a lot of MPs here from the Labour point of view that are positive, but we really wanted to find out what voters think, because they're the ones that really matter when it comes to whether this government will last into another term. Olivia Richwald's been in Selby and York to ask voters what they think.
Amazing value every day. Sounds just what the country needs from this spending review. Let's pop into this Selby charity to watch the Chancellor.
A new era in the threats that we face demands a new era for defence and security.
This charity provides meals, mental health support and friendship, and they do it all on a tiny budget. Brian is ex-military and thinks the government's increase in defence spending comes too late.
They should have been spending money today on defence to defend this country. At the moment, all they can do is he can stand on the main road coming up from Dover and wave Putin up to Whitehall.
Many, like Daniel and volunteer Angela, welcomed news of more money for the NHS and schools, but questioned if it was enough.
Sounds a lot when you see the figure on the screen, but you know by the time that's been delved out to the number of schools that need it, they're not getting a lot each, really. And again, there's also the situation of where's all this money coming from? That wasn't made clear.
They always seem to not really stick to their promises. So hopefully they might be able to do it this time. We'll see what happens.
And at the Webb Adventure Park near York, the parents here were pleased that the Chancellor gave a green light for more investment in education and the NHS.
NHS, 100%. A&E waiting times are just ludicrous. Every waiting time's ludicrous. My sister's a midwife, and I know midwifery, there's just not enough midwives.
They agree that more money needs to be spent, but spent wisely in the NHS and in education. I just finished an NHS related degree actually as a mature student, and I'm finding it very difficult to find jobs.
This year the wage bill at the Webb is up by £110,000 thanks to changes the Chancellor made in last year's budget. So how does Janice feel about how the government will be spending her extra taxes?
I was hoping for better, but it's as expected really, where more funding's going to science and AI, I think was mentioned, and schools, which is good.
I am determined to do everything in my power to put more money in people's pockets and to show them that this government This Labour government is on their side.
The Chancellor says Labour's on your side, Brian.
Everybody loves a comedian.
So, some mixed reviews for this Chancellor. More convincing needs to be done. Olivia Richwald, BBC Look North, North Yorkshire.
I think Brian there needs some convincing, doesn't he? James, we did hear Yorkshire constituencies mentioned by name quite a few times today. What can we read into that?
Yeah, you can read a lot into it. It's fascinating, the politics of this. I spoke to Torsten Bell, who's one of the Treasury Ministers today, and I said, look, Labour were really angry with the Conservatives when they gave loads of money to places that voted Conservative in 2019. They said it wasn't unfair, they said it was biased. I asked him, aren't you doing exactly the same thing to Labour areas that have voted Labour in 2024, potentially to head off reform and how well they're doing in the polls? His answer was no, we're not doing that. This is stuff that should have happened in the north of England and in Yorkshire for decades, and we're just evening up the funding. I mean, we've heard lots of politicians promise evening up, and when Spencer's talking about lots of governments of different colours promising better rail, we've been to those press calls, we've been to those events and read those press releases over 20 years. We've not seen it yet. Labour are promising that it will happen this time. But what do Rachel Reeves's colleagues think of exactly what happened here today? Rachel Reeves's day started where I'm standing, basically outside number 11. Let's see how she fared with some of her colleagues.
Is your department getting enough money?
That is one of the basic questions today.
Are you happy with the money you're getting?
Some Yorkshire Cabinet Ministers are happy, some are not. They found out what their departments can spend over the next 3 years. Those fraught decisions down here on the phone or round a table might feel a million miles away from us, but they will affect our lives.
When will we feel better off, Chancellor?
Back to the basic questions. Easy to answer, not so easy to get right.
I have made my choices. In place of chaos, I choose stability. In place of decline, I choose investments. In place of pessimism, division and defeatism, I choose national renewal. These are my choices, Mr. Speaker. These are Labour choices.
Welcoming our MPs to Look North's little bit of Westminster, I had my own questions for them. I suppose the first question for you is, what wasn't in there that you wanted to see?
Well, I've gone through it already. It's a hefty document, and Harrogate and Knaresborough's not mentioned a single time, and there's very few mentions of the North or Yorkshire in particular. For me, a lot of what we've seen already has already been announced, things like West Yorkshire Mass Transit.
What do you make of the way it's all been announced? Because, of course, we had a week or 10 days of things coming out that were going to be in the spending review. Is that the way to do it? I mean, is a bit of controlling the narrative going on by Labour, maybe?
I just think there's so many positive success stories in there. We're taking them piece by piece, and there's more to come. Look, I mean, some of the things I'm so excited about are even the warm homes, the new investment in social and affordable housing.
I mean, it's one of the nice announcements the Chancellor gives to Parliament, really, because the spending review, talking about spending. Of course, the devil behind the detail of all that is how you're going to raise the money, and it sounds like an awful lot more borrowing, an awful lot more tax. So all that borrowing's got to be paid for by taxpayers sooner or later.
A lot of numbers today, but decisions made in this little street in Westminster will have a big impact on your street. So we end the day where we started, outside Rachel Reeves's front door, but the reaction that will count isn't here, it's where we live, our houses, and some of the reaction coming in already, not necessarily that positive. David Skaith, the North Yorkshire Mayor, saying that this spending review was a chance for the government to show it was serious about rural and coastal areas, but it missed its chance. He's not happy, he's a Labour politician. I'm sure he's going to try and have a word with Rachel Reeves. But that spending review, 128 pages, Amy. I'll be reading it later, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it in the next few days.
Indeed we will. A bit of bedtime reading, James, thank you. James mentioned there, didn't he, North Yorkshire Mayor David Skaith. And while we're on the subject of mayors, Oliver Coppard is the Labour Mayor for South Yorkshire. He's rather pleased today. I began by asking him about the boost for the Northern Powerhouse rail and what this announcement really means.
My understanding is that through the infrastructure projects next week that will be announced, we'll hear more on rail. We obviously, as the mayors of West Yorkshire, South Yorkshire and North Yorkshire put together the White Rose Rail Plan, the Plan for Yorkshire, which was a £14 billion proposal to government about what we needed to see from that infrastructure plan. And we're hearing, I think, next week what we're actually going to get from the government. We're not expecting, frankly, all of that £14 billion to be committed all at once, but we're certainly hopeful that some of those projects will be part of that plan.
Let's move on to those 900 jobs for Sheffield Forge Masters. How much of an impact will that have?
Yeah, it's significant. It's really significant. I mean, you heard the Chancellor talk today about South Yorkshire's strength when it comes to the defence economy. Certainly we've got strengths in advanced manufacturing, engineering, materials science, and all of that is a hugely important part of that defence industry. So Forge Masters, owned by the Ministry of Defence, is now getting nearly £500 million worth of investment, and we're asking for more investment in our advanced manufacturing sector and some of those jobs of the future and industries of the future.
Some of these announcements, Labour trying to regain voters who are finding what reform have to offer very appealing?
No, I think this is about the government investing in places that have been left behind for all too long. I made the comment after the Doncaster election result that we were essentially the canary in the coal mine. The government needed to recognise the challenges that we face and the lack of patience that people here in our communities have now got. And I think what we've seen today from the government is a commitment to investing in our region. We've heard about the transport investment, the housing investments, the investments in creating a bigger and better economy. That's all good. I want to see more. I always want to see more for South Yorkshire, but today's a good start.
Lots of announcements, but when in reality are people going to feel better off? Because at the moment it's just figures, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, look, always you hear from government big announcements and then you have to see the delivery. That's a constant challenge for all of us. The transport investments, for instance, will start in 2027. But knowing that we're getting in those investments helps us to plan and helps us to do things differently today. So that confidence that we're getting from government as a result of those announcements today are really important. People will start to see the difference on their high streets, in their towns right across, not just South Yorkshire, but I believe right across the north.
Oliver Coppard, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
OK, let's move away from politics now, and an investigation is underway after a package containing a suspicious substance was sent to Leeds General Infirmary. Police were called after staff opened the package this morning. As a precaution, some hospital functions were moved elsewhere for a time. Beth Parsons is live outside the hospital for us this evening. Beth, what more can you tell us on this?
So at around 11 o'clock this morning, emergency services were called here to Leeds General Infirmary when staff inside the hospital found what's been described as a small package containing a suspicious substance. The package was contained and a police cordon was put in place for public safety, and some of the work going on inside the hospital had to be moved temporarily to another location. Now, West Yorkshire Police said later on this afternoon that tests conducted on site determined the substance posed no threat to public health, and police scenes were later stood down. They also added a malicious communications offence will be recorded regarding the package being sent to the hospital, and an investigation is currently underway with the Leeds District Criminal Investigation Department. No injuries have been reported, and the Leeds Teaching Hospitals Trust has been contacted for comment. The public and patients have been thanked for their understanding.
Beth, thank you. A West Yorkshire police officer has been jailed after being convicted of rape and sexual assault. PC Ben Bottomley, who's 23, was based at Kirklees District, appeared at Sheffield Crown Court today. He was sentenced to 4 years in prison. It follows an investigation into off-duty offences, which were reported to the police after he joined the force. More than 7,000 dangerous drivers on West Yorkshire's roads have been filmed by members of the public and reported to the police. This is the sort of driving that's been caught on camera. It's called Operation Snap, and it tackles poor driving standards. More than 10,000 videos have been uploaded via an online form over the last year. After assessing the driving, action has been taken against almost 3/4 of the driving been filmed. Now, 1 year after his wife's death, a man from Rotherham is determined to continue her legacy, raising awareness about the dangers of epilepsy. Joe Scott sadly died in May last year of sudden death in epilepsy syndrome known as SUDEP. It's a rare disorder that affects 1 in 1,000 people with epilepsy. Simon Thake has been to meet the family that she left behind.
Mummy. A husband, a son and a mother, remembering a special woman. Jo Scott campaigned all her life to raise awareness about the dangers of epilepsy. Sadly, Jo herself then died from sudden death in epilepsy syndrome, known as SUDEP.
It was completely out of the blue, absolutely unexpected. I'd gone to work that morning perfectly normal, and everything fell to bits halfway through the day. You know, it was incredible, really, you know, just how things could change so much so quickly.
Informing people without scaring them is the balance Epilepsy Action has been looking to strike.
SUDEP, which was what happened to Jo, which is sudden unexpected death in epilepsy, is still rare. But when we're talking rare, we're also talking about over 600,000 people living with epilepsy, and every day 3 people will die and be reported as dying of SUDEP.
I think epilepsy in a lot of ways is considered to be, I think, almost humorous in some cases. I know that Jo was really annoyed about an episode of one TV programme where seizures were shown as a laughing matter. She was passionate about making sure people understood the impact of living with epilepsy, as well as the potential life-threatening aspects of it.
We know of people who have epilepsy that didn't know that they could die as a result of their epilepsy. You know, they're just not told when they're diagnosed, and Jo was always trying to raise awareness, and we've just got to carry on raising that awareness for her.
As well as raising awareness, Craig is also raising money for Epilepsy Action. He's taking on the Great North Run in September and has lost 4 stone through his training. His motivation is clear.
For one thing, it brings me a bit closer to my wife, that she was so passionate about it, and it's something that I want to continue with that work. But also, I don't want another family suffering like we have. Anything that we can do that is going to stop another family going through this has got to be worth doing.
A year on from Jo's death, her memory will live on through the fundraising and the campaigning, but also the cuddles. Simon Thake, BBC Look North, Rotherham.
Gosh, such a sad story, but I'm sure Jo will be really proud of what her family are doing. Finally this evening, what do you think of the show so far? Hopefully not, in the words of Eric Morecambe, rubbish. A collection of the comedian's notebooks have arrived at the University of York, having been sold by his family. So with a little bit of artistic licence, we can send, believe it or not, Tommy Cooper, Bob Monkhouse and Eric himself through to have a rummage through them, or at least we'll send 3 actors who play them on stage in the last laugh. Tom Ingle can tell us more.
Yeah. It's very funny. It's very funny. And
the time when comedians lost the need to make people laugh.
Have you heard the one about 3 comedians walking into a room? It's not the start of a joke, but they are looking for one.
What's it say? Party, just a few.
He's got terrible handwriting.
So yeah. But it's very funny, though.
Squint, and this could be the late Bob Monkhouse, Tommy Cooper and Eric Morecambe. The resemblance is close, but the documents are the real deal. Morecambe's right notes, and all in the right order.
There's some fantastic pieces. There's some diaries, there's contracts, there's scripts, you know, very old scripts, some radio stuff, some TV stuff. But what I love about it is that it kind of endears him even more. It makes him a human. You know, it makes him, well, not that he wasn't a human, but it kind of normalises him.
Eric Morecambe and his partner Ernie Wise were a staple of 1970s television, entertaining tens of millions.
There's a lot of fishing in here, obviously. Eric loved his fishing.
And like your act.
Treasure from his personal archive has now been purchased for posterity by the University of York. Now, a lot of these documents have only just come to the archive, so they're still being worked through to see what gems are in there. There is Eric Morecambe's Variety Club International membership card, but perhaps more intriguingly, this notebook, which appears to contain the germs of the 1971 Morecambe and Wise Christmas special, with Vanessa Redgrave mucking about in the Napoleonic era. But it's thought these ideas would go to the writer Eddie Braburn to work up into the bits of television we all know and love.
It's really powerful holding them in your hands. These are the working materials of some of the people that have made us laugh the most throughout our lives, and it's important as well to know that these can be passed on, interrogated and looked at by anyone and everyone.
Somehow lost his baton, it flew out of his hand.
Which brings us back to Messrs Morecambe, Cooper and Monkhouse, or at least Bob Golding, Damien Williams and Simon Cartwright. The actors are in a show called The Last Laugh, an imagined dressing room conversation between the three legends.
Because we know all the routines, because we know all their stuff. Yeah. It was quite easy, wasn't it? It was quite nice in rehearsals, because we weren't finding the characters. No, you know.
They're just there.
Yeah.
I mean, like having a family dinner.
I know, absolutely. But I think Get it's him a lovely tin of orange paint, he's off.
The Last Laugh is in York this week and also visits Sheffield and Bradford. Now it comes with authentic jokes, straight from the pen of Mr Morecambe. Tom Ingle, BBC Look North, York.
Absolutely fantastic. Great to have those notebooks. It's been lovely today, Paul. Not that I've seen much of it, because obviously spending review has been a very busy time for all of us. But what's it going to be like tomorrow? Because I'm thinking of a little early doors paddle.
Paddle on the River Ouse?
Yes.
Absolutely stunning.
Oh, really?
It'll be mild
good.
and still. The
If
sun will
it's
be
not,
out.
I'll be blaming you.
I'm sure you will. Staithes was looking nice today. Look at that. What a beautiful part of the coast Staithes is. But absolutely lovely there, as has all the coast. And this is Stainborough Castle, looking very nice there. Thanks for sending that in, John. And if you've got any pictures you'd like to get them on the screen, then the addresses were on the screen, but they've disappeared. Anyway, tomorrow, sunshine, thundery showers later. That will be a risk. Second half of tomorrow, and again on Friday night. It looks a complicated setup, but in between, Friday looks very warm. This particular system will increase the risk of thunderstorms, hanging around Saturday morning for a time, but once we get to the second half of Saturday, it becomes fine. Then Sunday, and much of next week actually, is looking fine and quite summery. There's a satellite picture we've managed. 24-25 degrees this afternoon. It's a beautiful evening wherever you are out there. Overnight looks set to be dry and clear. A little bit of mistiness around dawn. We'll see lowest temperatures coming in at around 9 or 10 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow's high water times and a bit breezy along the coast, but quite a lot of sunshine nonetheless. Scarborough 5:32, Bridlington 5:48. So a stunning start to the day. Lots of sunshine around. It's dry. Second half of the day, we do pick up more cloud from the south, increasing the risk of a few thunderstorms breaking out. Very hit and miss. Some areas will remain dry. We'll see top temperatures around 23 or 24 degrees Celsius. Friday, very warm. Thunderstorms Friday night into Saturday morning, and then looking very promising Sunday and next week. That's the forecast, Amy.
Just my ticket. You know how I like that nice,
I love it.
sunny, warm weather.
Yep.
Thank you very much. That is it from us. But of course, we'll be back for the late news at 10:30 this evening. Enjoy the rest of the evening and that gorgeous weather. Bye-bye for now.